Hi guys. So yeah, it's Jerry. Today I'm going to be talking about a common problem that we all have. I'm not going to be covering any like academic stuff today. Like I don't know, like probably like econ or like something. Yeah, none of that today. And the problem I'm actually talking about is how our hands always gas out in an exam. Right? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I've been trying to like figure this out for like a whole week. Um I think all of us have this problem. I want to like help people and like share it. So, anyways, table of contents of what we're gonna do today. First, we're going to understand what really happens to our hands when we gas out. Then we're going to understand how does our hand actually gas out. How do we stop it from happening through like exercises and practicing. And four, some tricks that we can use on the actual exam. Okay, so to start, what really happens to our hands when we are, well, basically having an exam? So we're writing for more than like 10 minutes, basically. Um, what happens is this local muscular ischemia. Now, you might be wondering, hey, this picture doesn't really match up with the words here. Well, it actually does, because these two parts of your hand, the thenar group and the hypothenar group, these are the parts that go sore and powerless first. Okay? So it's actually quite important. Of course, like more stuff happened to your forearms, which we will talk about later, but these are the two parts of your hands that go sore. These are the parts that are really, really affected by the ischemia and that really, like make you gas out. So what is ischemia? It is insufficient blood flow to your hands. So that basically means your muscle endurance to write declines like tremendously. Okay. Um, and why is that? We're gonna like cover this later, but to be very simple, your forearm muscles are contracted constantly when you're writing. And this constant contraction basically compresses your blood vessels. And when your blood vessels is basically compressed, well, there's gonna be like less smooth blood flow towards your hands, and over time, you gas out. Now, there's actually stages to this. All right, and to show you like the stages of it, I'm going to right now I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes, and I'm going to be writing. Now, you might be wondering what I'm going to be writing, right? Here I have a blank piece of paper. Um, I'm going to be writing some random words, okay? But the main point is I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continuously write for 10 minutes, or at least try my best to finish 10 minutes, and basically, see how it feels. Okay, so I stopped writing. Turns out I actually didn't, write for 10 minutes. I wrote for 7 minutes, and my hand cannot take it anymore. This is how much I wrote. I try and produce like some sort of paragraph, but I think that's like the length of a literature or like English paper one paragraph. But yeah, I try to like write something out, man. Um, so just like some thoughts in the beginning, it actually doesn't feel that bad. My hand just feels kind of heavy. Towards the middle, that's when like my fingers, like for example my thumb, it starts to like feel some sort of soreness. Then towards the end, for like let's say the last like 6 or 7 minutes, that's when like it starts kicking in. Okay, and it actually felt you can check the part when I was writing. There's a lot of parts where I just literally let go of my hand like this because I can't take it, bro. Like the burn is too real. I just need to like force a break upon myself. Um, Yeah, although I try to keep it like continuous, right? Like my breaks are like, I don't know. I don't think even like more than 3 seconds, but like yeah, I try to like get some nice like short, very short breaks in there because like I just can't carry on. Um, so yeah, so I guess like that's what really happens when you just write very fast for like um write very fast for I don't know a short amount of time. And the thing is like a whole, let's say literature paper two, that's like an hour and 45 minutes, dude. If we are writing like this, then like we're gassing out by like we don't even need to reach like half an hour before we gas out. Okay, to continue, we're gonna learn how does it actually happen. Like, what are some factors that cause local muscular ischemia to happen in an exam? First, we gotta learn this thing called isometric contraction, as this is the primary cause. Um, so the action of writing is isometric. It is not dynamic. Basically means it automatically generates force. The muscle length doesn't really change, and basically, in terms of like cause and effect, when you automatically generate force, right, the blood vessels stay compressed, and guess what happens? You get ischemia, and then ischemia, you gas out in an exam, and then you don't do good in your literature or your Langenle or your history or your econ paper. You're cooked. Um, and this is what isometric contraction looks like, right? So here I have a picture. You might be saying, "Hey, this is just like the red part represents muscle tension, right?" But guess what? This whole exercise is. This is a freaking bicep curl. That's a freaking bicep curl right there. Isn't that crazy? Like, um, it's not supposed to do like that. Well, typically a bicep curl, this hand, this little forearm thing, is supposed to go up, and this bicep is supposed to get bigger because when you go up, you literally press the flesh like together, so it gets bigger. Basically, it shortens, the bicep shortens, and then when you stretch, it lengthens. But isometric contraction means you're holding a position basically. So let's say if you're doing a plank, yeah, that's isometric compression. Isometric contraction. If you're holding a position, like your muscle is generating force, but it's not really moving, isometric contraction. Boom, you just learned a new thing. So what's really the difference here? When there's like dynamic movement, like basically any exercise in the gym, there's this thing that they say pump, right? So basically, when a bunch of hemoglobin, dude, am I saying it correctly? Hemoglobin, goes into your like, basically like the part where you're training, and so that's like more blood flow, and because it gets bigger, it swells. We call it the pump. And for the isometric hold, basically what happens is you're holding like exercise. Your muscle isn't moving, vessel is constantly compressed, and it causes ischemia. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it, huh? Because that's exactly what happens in the exam. Factor two, your grip sucks. So, ever since we were a kid, we've been taught like the grip, the correct grip is this thing right here, the blue image. Oh, it's the perfect tripod grasp. Such a good grip. I feel like everybody grips like this, unless you're like that weird kid back in kindergarten who grips their pencil like they're holding a sword. But there's actually a problem with this grip, right? And the problem is, unlike these like weird grips that we don't really use, these things are actually unstable, right? But because of this, the stability of the grip we typically use, stability typically means that we're holding for long. And guess what happens when we're holding? we're a compressing vessel. So so that's like basically a problem, but we can't really fix it, right? And because of our grip, the forearms, or the flexor digitorum superficialis, the forearms are constantly stimulated and they're constantly generating force and wearing us down. Exam. So think of yourself as like doing a dead hang, but you're not, basically it's not that intense, but you're doing like a long term dead hang that is like way lighter, and you're just doing it for like an hour. That's how bad it is. Factor 3, pretty self-explanatory, lack of endurance. There's two possibilities. First, you don't train forearms. I sure don't. Nobody trains forearms, even if you go to the gym, which I know like a lot of our classmates are like, I don't know, high schoolers go to the gym. Second possibility is you're training your forearm to look big and or like aesthetic, but you're not training it to write more. Okay, so what do I mean by training it big? So let's look at this dude right here. He's adding a ton of weight to his freaking forearms to do like some sort of arm wrestle exercise. And look at the size of his forearms. That's like big. You're trying to look big with your forearms. And you're doing this through overloading, by overloading weight, right? But that's like the wrong way if we want to like train for endurance. So, yeah. Now, how do we even stop it, right? There's three ways. We use non-weighted exercises, which is, well, not a lot to talk about there. Weighted exercises, more to talk about. And third is grip reprogramming. Now, that's something that needs explanation. First, unweighted ones. So, basically, when you're doing unweighted exercises, these like body weight exercises, these are very, very nice. So, dead hangs, okay? So why like 5 sets and like why 12 reps? Like, dude, isn't this like a little bit more than like a typical, I don't know, like a typical movement where you just train like 10 reps in like 3 to 4? Yeah, sure, but the thing is, you're not training for strength. You don't really need to compress your rep amount. You need to train for longer, right? So that's the logic behind like training longer for endurance. And why are you training to failure? Because by hanging, okay, so you're hanging and train to failure. That means like you're trying to hold longer. So that actually is helpful. And the other way is writing. If you do like 10 minutes of consistent writing, basically like failure. Like considering how like I can't even do 7 minutes, bro. Like how do I even do 10? But I don't know. Y'all probably can do 10. So if you can just do like 10 minutes of consistent writing, and if you repeat it multiple times, some sort of muscle memory is going to be developed where the isometric contraction won't feel that bad. Then, what happens when you add like the weight in? Because I know like, yeah, once again, I know like a lot of us like go to the gym or whatever. The first thing you can do is the farmer's walk. So what is the farmer's walk? Basically, you take 2 dumbbells, right? You're basically holding 2 dumbbells and you're trying to walk with 2 dumbbells, right? But when you're doing so, you want to like relax fully your triceps and your chest so that you make sure it's your forearms that are carrying the weight. But once again, you're not training for strength anyways. So you basically walk longer. Okay? And you're practicing to use minimal force, which mimics an exam where you're trying to like write in the most comfortable and least fatiguing way possible. Now, of course, like the self-explanatory ones, wrist curls and reverse wrist curls. I'm gonna kind of show you how it works, and also I'm gonna talk about why heavy grip trainers don't work. All right, so let's talk about like the exercises. Let's talk about the wrist curl, the reverse wrist curl, and I gotta debunk this thing. So, okay. So basically, dude, I suck at explaining, bro. Like, I actually suck at explaining, but I'll try to. A wrist curl, basically, if you move your hand a certain way, your forearm is supposed to contract or like extend. I don't know, dude. Like, um, but if you contract it like this, then the forearms move another certain way. When you do a wrist curl, I think you're supposed to contract it like this. Dude, I don't train forearms, but um, I know for sure. Like for reverse, you gotta like start with your forearms in the back, and then for the actual wrist curl, you have to start with your forearms in the front. Dude, I actually, oh my god, he's like explaining this, dude. Like, yeah, just like there are like better videos explaining this, but the main point is not explaining it. The main point is understanding that wrist curls, reverse wrist curls are super super good for your forearms. Okay. Moving on. Let's debunk this thing. So I bet that all of you have like a stage where you see that one TikTok of like that guy doing some forearm grips, and then like, it turns out well, and then you buy one, right? Um, because I did. Okay, I bought one, and I kind of like used it then and there. But the main point is that this thing doesn't help when you put it to the max kg, okay? When you put it to the max. So right now, this is like 60. Yeah, this thing is 60 kilograms. I don't actually believe that it's 60 kilograms, but it shows that it is 60 kilograms. So I'm gonna assume that it is some sort of like heavy weight. But the point is, it doesn't really matter if you can do it. The reason why it doesn't matter you can do it or not is because when you're training like this, like super, I don't think this is even super heavy, but if you're training like this, then you're not training to be, you're not training your endurance anyways. You're trying to get stronger, basically. And sure, if you're doing this, you get like stronger grip, but you don't really develop any endurance. It's like you're training a power lifter and a marathon runner. You cannot, make the marathon runner do like 400 kg deadlifts, and you cannot make the power lifter run like a mile. It's like the same thing. You're trying to train for endurance. Okay, we are the marathon runners. We have to ride consistently for an hour and like, or more. That's our goal, basically. So that is why these heavy things don't work. And that is also why it doesn't work when you think you're like him and then you try to do like heavy for like your wrist curls. It doesn't work like that, bro. Like, in fact, there's like high risk of you like hurting yourself. So it's not worth the risk. Yeah. Okay, so and that brings me to my third solution, and that is by reprogramming your grip. When I mean reprogramming your grip, I don't mean like switching to a whole new grip, okay? Like, don't tell me you're going to like go back to holding your grip like a sword like this, or like snatching it from the back like this, or I don't even know what this is, dude. You're not switching your grip, but rather you are switching how you think about your grip. You're not trying to like purposely grip it when writing, basically. Why is that? Because when you basically hold the pen and when you write naturally, okay, without like any force, your brain basically already automatically tenses up a part of your forearms to be able to write. If you purposely grip it more for that like handwriting, then it gets worse. Ischemia gets worse. So you have to basically sacrifice your handwriting for writing longer. And to be really honest, your handwriting doesn't even get that bad if you just hold it naturally. You just have to let the pen fall, okay? And that brings me to my second point. That is why a thicker pencil is better than a lighter one. If you're letting your pen and its own gravity and weight like literally fall on your hand and writing naturally, these light pens are not going to be helpful. These light slim pens are not going to be helpful, dude. And why is that? It's because when you have a light pen, basically your hand, your thumb and your finger basically you have to wrap around this much more slimmer, lighter pen more. When you wrap around it more, the fingers either stretch downwards or you basically go full circle, which is less, less cases of that, but your fingers basically stretch downwards. You think you have more control and more stability, but what's actually happening is that you're basically promoting ischemia from happening. Okay, and to give like a little video for like reference to what I mean by you having more control over your thinner pen. Okay, let's say we go down our pen here, right? And then let's say we're gripping it right now. Because this pen is thinner, we're gripping it more. You feel what I mean? So we have like more control over the pen. And whereas if you have a thicker pencil, you basically like your thicker pencil works together with your hand rather than like your hand fully guiding the pencil. Cuz the pencil is thicker itself and also has more weight because it's thicker, right? When you hold it naturally and just let the pencil do its work as you write, it actually feels much better and much more relaxing. And so, for example, we have like a sumo grip pencil here, and it's just like a normal grip. The sumo grip, this one, the fat one, is definitely gonna be better, right? And actually, a lot of people already know about this. Okay, so that's why in America there's this thing called like pencil grips, where I don't know, have you guys seen like a pencil and then they have to like put some sort of like, it's like almost like putting something on the pencil. It's like putting like a scarf on the pencil. Yeah, you're putting something on the pencil. I don't really know how to describe it, but you're putting something on a pencil that makes your grip more ergonomic and makes it more comfortable. But the main point is actually making it thicker. Now some tricks. I feel like the main trick that needs to be talked about here is taking pauses. If you take like a 3-second pause between paragraphs, like that's gonna be huge. There isn't some sort of like secret exercise where you like bend your fingers 360 in the middle of an exam just to like promote blood flow. No. But simple pauses is going to be really, really beneficial for your hands when you're in an exam. You might be thinking, hey Jerry, we already know that. But the thing is, when you guys take a pause, or just like me, it's almost like instinctive, right? For example, you can look back to my writing clip. I only take a pause when my hand is really burning. And when I do, I only take a pause for like, I don't know, like basically not a lot of time. Okay. The reason for that is when there's like exam pressure, you just kind of want to finish it. But you got to think of the long term. If you take for like 3 to 5 seconds, that's basically already enough. And for your basically your blood flow to be much better in your hands. Enough for you to go on for another 10 or so minutes. If you're able to do this for a long time, then taking these pauses is more important than you think. It shouldn't be instinctive. It should be something like, it should be like a habit. Okay. So yeah, that's basically the end of the video. I don't have anything else to say about like our hands. There's nothing else that I've found this week. If you guys like study, you guys are not going to run out of ideas, okay? It's gonna be really sad if you run out of hand stamina before you run out of actual ideas to write. Okay, so good luck on your exams, your papers, and yeah, bye-bye.